Hey everybody, I'm Justin Kennington with SDVoE Alliance, and today I'm joined by Rob Muddiman, Vice President for EMEA for ZeeVee. Rob, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Justin. Good to be here, mate.
Excellent. I'm glad you're excited. Yesterday you were worried I seemed tense. How do I seem today? Is it okay?
You seem a lot more relaxed. Yeah?
Okay, good.
It's going well, obviously.
Okay, yeah, I guess day one, you know, the day one waiting for the shoe to drop.
It is stressful. And now you're here in front of you must be stressed now.
Terribly.
I'll behave, honestly.
Terribly. Yeah. Rob, we wanted to talk a little bit about the trends in the market with respect to AV over IP, its adoption, its acceptance, which are, I would say, two slightly different things.
Absolutely.
With regard to AV over IP generally, but also SDVoE. Why don't you tell us, what do you see from where you sit?
Yeah, well, excellent question, actually. As you know, we've been shipping AV over IP, started off with the uncompressed stuff 7 years ago, and it was based on what is now
it's been that long.
the SDVoE chip from Semtech, the early version. So we were the first company to ship that. 7 years ago, I won't lie, it was a struggle. You'd talk to consultants and integrators, they'd glaze over a little bit. There'd be a look of fear when you were talking to IT managers about putting AV on networks, etc. But today it's completely different. I would say probably 90%, maybe more, of all new big projects specify AV over IP, which is great. I think what we've now come to is a stage where everyone knows about AV over IP, but actually there is still a bit of confusion out there, right? Because of the different standards, the different options that people have.
Sure. You know, I wonder, you mentioned so many big projects going AV over IP. That seems, in the data I've seen, that seems to coincide with this trend of the, let's say, the sunset of the large matrix switch. It seems to me that a place where AV over IP's got a strong foothold is in the very large port count or endpoint count installs, where people have seen that AV over IP holds a clear advantage over stacks and stacks of matrix switch hardware.
You're right.
Does that line up?
It absolutely does, and the feedback that we get is where we're used to replace the old matrix switches, they get an installation which is far more flexible, far more reliable, whereas in the past you had an AV technician who was running around the building resetting matrix switches every day because things weren't working. We moved to AV over IP, in particular with the SDVoE solution that we have, and it's trouble-free, works like a dream. It's end users love it.
Talk a little bit about how do you see acceptance of SDVoE compared to other AV over IP technologies?
It's really getting there, Justin. I mean, obviously you've done a great job, everyone in the Alliance has done a great job. We're out there the whole time trying to educate the industry. As I said, there's a lot of confusion. You've got AV over IP, well what is that? In our mind, you've got, it'll go two ways in the future. You'll have the heavily compressed stuff, so the H.264, H.265 stuff, good for digital signage, motion video, and SDVoE will be at the other end. Because you've got the standard of Ethernet, you really need a standard for AV over IP. I know SDVoE, you can't call it a standard, but it's interoperable. There are so many other vendors that have got it, which quite frankly brings a lot of comfort to end users when they go with that technology. They're not going to be siloed with one manufacturer. And that's the problem with the stuff that's in the middle, all of the JPEG 2000, the mid-range compressed stuff, it's all proprietary. As you know, ZeeVee also has a JPEG 2000 solution. We kind of had to, because we were competing with projects where somehow people decided it needed to be on a 1 gig network.
I'll forgive you, Rob. You're on notice, but I'll forgive you.
I know. But you know, it's an ongoing education that we have to make, and it's also a way of opening doors. Eventually, it will be, in our mind, it'll be uncompressed, and that I believe will be SDVoE. It'll be H.264, H.265, and that continuous education process is something we have to do. Of course, we have a lot more success when we're talking directly to the end users.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. The end users will. It's not like years ago, right? They spend a lot more time trying to understand the technology, and now you've got the IT departments involved as well, putting devices on a network is what they do, right?
Yeah.
It's what they're used to doing. So they just need to be convinced on how secure that is and how easy it is to put it on the network.
I'm curious, you say you have an easier time when the end user's involved. Is that because, how do I ask this the clear way that I mean it? Is that because having the end user involved makes it easier for the integrator to put things on the network? Or is there a different kind of excitement that the end user himself has that says, wow, I really want this? Maybe it's some of both, but I'm curious to hear.
I think we're just in a better position to talk to and educate the end user, and they want to learn, right?
Okay.
They want to understand. So by going in there, and honestly, we go in there without an agenda. We talk to them about what their application is, what the network is, what network options are, and what the budget is. And of course, what we'd like to do is sell SDVoE every single time. Sometimes that's not possible if they've only got a 1 gig network and they insist on putting it on that 1 gig network, or there's a budget issue. So we kind of have to respect that. But it's changing so rapidly now, and the percentage of SDVoE solutions against the JPEG 2000 solutions that we're selling, it's flipping way the other way now. And it's accelerating all the time, as you know.
Yeah.
Some of the nice projects we've done recently.
ZeeVee has started to take advantage of the ASIC chip that's now available for SDVoE with your XS and your XR product lines. Talk about that a little bit. What's different about those products for you when you're out there telling people about them?
Yeah, I mean, it's given us another dimension. The chipset itself, number one, means we can build devices that are PoE, right?
Okay.
They're fanless. That's a big tick box in most cases. And actually, there's some cost savings that we've been able to make as well, both with the hardware, the chips on there, but the packaging as well. So right now, that solution, based on the ASIC, the price point is at a price point which is similar to JPEG 2000 solutions from other competitors. Even when you take into account the cost of the network, which might be slightly more for a 10 gig. So right now, it makes no sense to go with a JPEG or a compressed solution. It all points towards you should actually be going with an uncompressed solution, getting all the advantages of low power, fanless, PoE. Then you've got all the other features that SDVoE bring, like multi-view, easy video walls, being able to do the processing you need for LED walls, etc. KVM capability, all in one package, which you don't get with the
I'm glad to hear that. That speaks to this trend that you hinted at, where, and this is how I see the world too, that eventually, when everything is AV over IP, there will be a solution for high quality, zero latency, and of course I believe that's SDVoE, and today it is. But there also needs to be a solution for highly compressed, where bandwidth is at a premium, right? If I need to stream it live to my cell phone, I'm not going to send 9 gigs per second.
No.
I'm going to pay a price in image quality and latency, but I get something for that price.
You get something for it, exactly.
Whereas, I think the JPEGs just kind of go away. All I'm getting is the ability to use a 10-year-old network. And eventually that's going to be a 15 or 20-year-old network, and I really don't want it.
It's stopgap. I think it's really there because of some clever marketing by some other companies, some big companies that are out there. But I believe in the future it has to go uncompressed. Think back to the days of matrix switches, Justin. You were there at a big manufacturer with matrix switches. The first switches that are out there didn't use compression for 1080p, right?
Right.
If someone had come out with a switch which used compression, a proprietary switch with compression, everyone would have laughed at them. Nobody would have used it. So we've moved to AV over IP. I get that in certain cases you're going to need compression because the network dictates that's the only bandwidth that you've got. But really, when bandwidth is no longer the limitation and costs are coming down, and let's face it, probably something we didn't talk about, but the majority of AV over IP installations that are out there at the moment tend to go on these parallel networks for whatever reason. Sometimes they go on an existing network, a 1 gig network, but it's unlikely, particularly when you've got competitors' products that are using something like 950 megabits on a 1 gig network.
Right, that's an argument I've often made, is that, okay, fine, you want to stick to 1 gig, okay, fine, you're going to use your existing network, but you're still going to have to expand your existing network.
At some point.
You don't have 50 free ports with 900 megabits of bandwidth available. Otherwise, why did you buy that and have it sitting there? You wasted your money.
Exactly right, Justin. And this is why we have to have those conversations with the people who want to learn, right? And haven't got an agenda. Sometimes in this industry, people have agendas, or they have relationships, they're used to doing things a particular way. So, rightly or wrongly, and I understand that's the way to do it. So we trying to cut through that and just get the facts out there.
Well, one of the things I think that is shaken up some of that momentum, let's say, is the way the supply chains have been lately. And I know that you guys have done a good job of keeping products available, keeping products in stock. Others have not. How has this looked from your chair again?
It's phenomenal. It's really helped with our growth over the last year. And thank you for keeping us in supply of the Semtech chip, of course, So that's been great. No, I wouldn't say we necessarily saw it coming. We had some indication that this might be happening, and we put ourselves in a very, very good position. So right now, our lead time on product is between 2 and 6 weeks, depending on when the order's received and what the current order backlog is. So it's pretty reasonable compared to the 9 months plus that I'm hearing elsewhere.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you, Rob. Is there anything we should touch on that we missed?
When are you going to buy me a beer then?
I bought you a beer yesterday, and I'll do it again today if you'd like.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cheers, Justin.
Thank you for joining us, Rob, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.